We have baseball tonight, and the Rangers don't have a new sheriff in town, but there's going to be a new deputy. We've got those stories as the DLLS Rangers podcast starts right now. Opportunity will knock, but the Yankees have an opportunity as it knocked for them last night. And of course, there is a Rangers assistant coach who has a new opportunity. And that is some of the stuff we'll talk about on today's DLLS Rangers podcast. Hi, welcome into the All City Sports Network studios. Here we are. It's John Radigan and Jeff Wilson. Rads and J-Dub, we've got the Prophet over there. No Abby today. Abs has been busy doing a bunch of stuff, including Mavs after Rangers. She needed a little downtime. So there she goes. Good for her.
Yeah, no complaints.
And none at all. And there's a lot to talk about with regard to Game 4 of the World Series. We are absolutely going to get to that. We would like you to talk about it, too, in the chat over there. Please chat with us, like us, subscribe to us. Don't forget about the new deal that we have for anybody who might want to be a diehard. It's like half the price that it used to be, and it's basically the same deal for a much lower price. This is a limited time offer, so make sure you take advantage of this thing before we seriously just pull the thing away. Or we aren't in charge of that. We don't know. We just do what we're told. But you need to do what you're told. Become a diehard today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have some stories coming up that will be behind the paywall, if you will, for diehards only. Once this season ends, we dive into the off season. I've got one ready to go. I've got another one I'm working on. So, yeah. And there's going to be some news this week, I have a feeling.
Yeah, and that was the greatest text I got last night after Freeman. We'll get into the details of the game, but after Freddie Freeman's home run, Jeff texts me, all right, I got a new updated 40-man roster we can do tomorrow. He's feverishly working on what might come next. What might come next hasn't come yet. And truthfully, even though we have news on the Rangers front, even that really hasn't come yet. These are reports, Jeff. But the reports out of Chicago seem pretty legitimate that Will Venable is going to be named as the new manager of the Chicago White Sox.
Right. And we kind of talked about it yesterday as being a possibility. He had interviewed. He'd been in the process a while, and
he hadn't been eliminated, right? They were eliminating more and more guys.
More and more. And then he had an interview with the Marlins. Don't know if he made it there or if he just kind of said, hey, guys, I'm going to go interview with the Marlins and give me this job. Use it as leverage. But it's you always wonder, well, what does an associate manager, which is a made-up position, what does a bench coach really do? And he does a lot. He's in charge of, obviously helping out the manager. You'd see Will Venable on the phone a lot and getting the word about whether to do replays or not. But he did spring training. He's the bench coach. Typically, he's the guy who designs spring training and how the camp is going to run. And the Rangers had talked about how they're maybe going to do some things differently this spring based on the results from this year. So they need to find a guy who can do that. Donnie Ecker has the title of bench coach and offensive coordinator. I'm assuming he'll have a hand in a say in what goes down. Bobby Wilson, of course, who played in the major leagues, maybe he has some ideas, and maybe his role is going to expand a little bit from just the catching guy. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. They have two openings now.
Yeah, that's
Tim Hires, who's the hitting coach, who went to the Braves, and then now this Will Venable post. And really, I don't know that they have an internal candidate for hitting coach in Seth Connor. It'll be interesting. Typically when a guy on a coaching staff gets a job, he's allowed to take one coach with him. So maybe you could see, the Rangers give Venable the opportunity to take an assistant who's currently with the Rangers. Maybe a Bobby Wilson. Maybe, hey, I want Bobby Wilson to be my bench coach. Well, that's a promotion for Bobby Wilson.
Yeah.
And that's certainly a possibility. Something like that happens. I'm not saying Bobby Wilson, but just as an example. Yeah. So a couple of things, there's some balls in the air that need to get caught and sorted out. And I'm sure the Rangers had an idea this was coming. I'm sure Will gave him a heads up. But we'll see how they change things around.
Yeah.
If there's any fallout and if anybody else leaves the staff.
Yeah. And a few things to remember. Teams almost never stand in the way of somebody getting an opportunity like this, or if it was hypothetically Bobby Wilson, nobody's going to stand in the way of him getting an opportunity like that, right? I mean, this is how teams operate. It's in good faith because they want to attract the best assistant coaches in the future as well. Yeah. And you have to show them that sign of good faith that if there's a great opportunity for you, we're going to let you go take it.
Yeah, and we'll use Bobby Wilson as the example because he's a younger guy, really well thought of, excellent catching coordinator, and you look at around baseball at all these former catchers who are managers, including Bruce Bochy.
Yeah.
So does he become the manager in waiting, if you will? And if he does, if or could he force the Rangers' hands in that regard? Let's say Will Venable says, "Hey, I want you to be my bench coach." Well, that's a promotion. So it's baseball protocol, as you were just kind of saying. If a coach has an opportunity for a non-parallel move, a promotion, they're going to give him the chance to take it. So maybe Bobby Wilson can say, "Hey, I've got this opportunity. Why don't you make me associate manager?" Because Will Venable did coach outfielders. It's not like Bobby Wilson would stop coaching the catchers.
No.
So there's some things that could happen, but just kind of looking internally and at the farm system and whatnot. All right, who would be a bench coach replacement? I don't know that there is anybody, frankly. You wonder about a guy like Nick Hundley, who's a special assistant to Chris Young. Now maybe he really likes that role, likes being in the front office. Somebody on my Twitter notifications mentioned Michael Young. That's not happening.
No.
Michael now lives in California and still has kids in school and does not want to hop back into the game like that. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, but hopefully we'll gain some clarity on it this week.
Yeah, and the thing that you must remember in cases like that is that you have to have such a burning desire to be a coach if you're going to coach at the major league level, Jeff, because the schedule for a coach is essentially the same, only probably a little bit longer days anyway.
Oh, yeah,
than the players,
for
right?
Sure.
And so it's February until whenever you stop playing, hopefully November, right? It's a long year, and they get to the ballpark often earlier than the player, most often earlier than the players, and most often stay later.
On the first day of a series, Mike Maddox gets to the ballpark for a 7:00 game at 9:30
in the morning.
Yeah,
wow.
Between 8:30 and 9:30, and starts breaking down the opposing hitters so he can get a scouting report ready to give to the guys by the 3:00 meeting with the pitchers and the catchers. So that's one example. I mean, these guys are always there early. There's always guys who want to come and get early work. And then they stay late. They talk about the game. If the Rangers use 7 pitchers, like, all right, who's coming up from AAA? And so there's just a lot that happens. I'm not saying the players have it easy, but they definitely have a shorter work day than coaches do.
Yep, no doubt about it. So it's interesting, and when you examine the choice that Will Venable made, and I see Ben, hey. Do well, Will, and thanks for your service. No doubt. Everybody who was a part of last year's organization deserves that sort of tip of the cap, right? I mean, it was a team, and anybody who was a part of that World Series effort deserves that tip of the cap. But man, Will goes into just probably as difficult a situation as any manager has ever taken over, right? It's the losing his team in Major League history.
Right. I don't think that Casey Stengel got fired by the Mets after their awful 62 season. The White Sox fired Pedro Grifol during the season. Grady Sizemore became the interim manager. Probably a guy who's a contemporary to Will in terms of playing and everything. Will's only 42, and he just turned 42 this week.
Yeah.
I think that it's a tough job. Obviously, 121 losses, MLB record. So what might he have liked about it? Well, it's a big market, right? It's a big market. Ownership has been committed in the past, but now Jerry Reinsdorf is exploring the sale of the team. Maybe they've already got a group, and maybe this group is already saying, hey, behind the scenes, we're gonna try to get a new ballpark. We're gonna try to pump a bunch of money into this and get free agents. It's not going to be a quick fix, though. I mean, they're not going to go from 121 losses to the postseason. They might go from 120 losses to 100 losses,
right?
And that's a hell of an improvement. 20-game improvement. And you kind of look at the White Sox. At least when they played the Rangers, those games are all pretty competitive. A lot of the games the White Sox lost late because their bullpen, or they just made a stupid mistake because they had a young guy playing. There of course was the Travis Jankowski catch. I mean, really, the Rangers went 7-0 against them, but easily, a lot of those games could have gone either way. So now they're still terrible, the White Sox. I mean, there's just no doubt.
Can't
about
dispute that record.
And you kind of look at that roster. You have Luis Robert Jr., who's a nice player when he's healthy, and then it's like, gosh, what else do they have? They have the pitcher Garrett Crochet, who was an all-star and looks pretty good. But then beyond that, it's a bunch of prospects, and I don't know that they're like really good prospects.
Right. Right. So you hope a Will Venable, for his sake, can go in there and get the most out of them. But it'll be, if they have a 20-win improvement, right? They're still a 100-loss team if they have a 20-win improvement, and that is not that satisfying to a fan base. And we remember it now. Granted, a completely different circumstance, but the year that the Rangers had acquired both Simeon and Seager and John Gray in that big offseason, they had about a 20-win improvement over the previous year, right?
Yeah.
Many fans expected more.
Right. It was the Rangers went 60-102 and 21, and it wasn't a huge. It was 68 and 94 the next year, and then 2 years. Yeah. They improved by 30 games. Yeah. So it's gonna take time. You just wonder, like, gosh, this team 121 losses.
Wow, hard.
Yeah, hard. It's a tough one.
So we did do some interesting research. Jeff does the heavy lifting on the research after I brought it up, but I'm like, has Boch ever lost a coach? And he really hasn't lost that many during his time in San Diego or San Francisco.
It's pretty interesting. You go and look at these coaching staffs, and there are a lot of names that were there from start to finish. If there was one that he lost, it was Alan Trammell. Yeah, because Trammell went to manage the Tigers and. But did you really lose him? It's like, of course, Alan Trammell's going to take the Tiger
job. Right?
But there were some coaches who were fired or replaced. Darren Balsey comes to mind. He replaced the pitching coach early in San Diego, and Balsey, Greg Maddux can't say enough good things about him. And then Bochy goes to the Giants. Takes Tim Flannery with him from the Padres staff. Yeah. And then those staffs, the World Series teams in 10, 12, and 14, they were almost to a man the same. Roberto Kelly wasn't on the 2010 coaching staff, but he was on 12 and 14. But you have guys like Ron Wotus, the pitching coach was Dave Righetti. Flannery was there at third base. Henley Mullins was the hitting coach. So there's a lot to be said about continuity, too. And so this is I'm sure it's not a foreign situation for Bruce Bochy, but to have to replace two guys. And hey, look, they put together a really good coaching staff. If other teams are trying to poach your coaches, that tells you that you were in a pretty good spot, no matter what happened last season.
Yeah, and you said there's a lot to be said for continuity. There's also a lot to be said for the guy that inspires that continuity.
Oh, my
right?
gosh, yeah.
People are not getting burned out by or tired of or, lose the interest in working with /for Bruce Bochy.
Yeah, he's not. I was going to compare him to somebody else, but that's probably not fair. But he's
not that guy that's going to beat you down.
Right, exactly. He's not yelling at you. He's not overbearing. He lets you do your job. If something comes up, he'll talk to you about it, but he'll talk to you about it like Bruce Bochy talks to us. Laid back. Well, why don't we try whatever?
Yeah.
So, a browbeater. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be up your butt. So, good for him to have those staffs and to be that kind of manager with the guys that he has to work closest with.
Yeah, be that kind of boss, basically. So anyway, the Rangers do have some needs, though. They've got some holes to fill, and they will go about the business of filling them perhaps as soon as later on in this week. We'll find out more. We expect to hear some news out of the Rangers camp a little bit later on in the week. Coming up next, though, we are going to talk lots about Game 4 last night. Wow, there were so many different aspects to this game. It was fun to watch. It'll be fun to talk about. We encourage you to join us. Chat along with us. We'll also get to some of the fun little news and notes that happened sort of peripherally on this game. That's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Oh, Shady Rays. Man, oh, man, do I love me some Shady Rays. I wore them. It was raining today, and I wore them.
Really?
Yeah, just because I look cool. I just wanted to look good. No, you know how when it's rainy, but there's a little bit of sun up there?
Yeah.
It's like it's super bright. So I'm like, where the heck are my Shady Rays? Polarized Shady Rays, almost indestructible. I throw these things around way too much, and they are fantastic. And, just the ability to just darken those areas where it is super bright. I mean, I don't ski anymore because we don't have any snow here, but like in skiing, you'd always have that. If there was any sun, beating off that snow, that's the darkness you needed. That's what you get from Shady Rays. They're fantastic. Multiple colors, tons of styles. We want you to get 35% off these polarized sunglasses. ShadyRays.com with the code DLLS.
Arizona, very sunny, spring training. Got to have those. I'm not in charge of the flooring in Arizona, but the Rangers have gotten some new carpet in their clubhouse recently. I doubt they use Empire Today because it's in Arizona, but when we get new carpet, like we did out here on the floor, I'm using Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. It's the best place to go on new flooring. It beats the big box stores where somebody is handling a bunch of different departments. These are flooring experts. The best thing is the virtual floor designer, where you can take your phone, snap a picture, or hold it up and envision what's going to happen in your room, and that's what it's going to look like. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/DLLS for details.
All right, so let's talk about that crazy game. Again, early in the game, Jeff is texting, don't worry, I've got a story that'll get us through tomorrow, meaning, because we're only going to talk so much about a sweep, right? We were going to start focusing on the Hot Stove League, which
for sure
we will do as soon as the series ends, no doubt. But we are glad that it didn't end, despite what happened early. Freddie Freeman, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's crazy, and for him to 4 straight games, 6 straight postseason World Series games.
Yeah, and World Series. Going back to 21 when he was with the Braves.
Which is an MLB record.
And the 4 ties a record, 4 in the same series, ties a record with George Springer. We hate to bring that up, but I think Springer did it in that 17 run.
Yeah, he had a little help. Anyway, the World Series MVP, assuming the Dodgers hang on, is going to be Freddie Freeman. But you saw some. It's pretty interesting in the LA Times. Their team of writers, they had a column like, "Don't worry, this is fine. Dodgers did what they had to do," and they had another columnist saying, "Nope, the time to sweat. And Dave Roberts had kind of said if the bullpen game wasn't going to work out, if they were going to be behind, he was going to keep his powder dry and save some relievers. That's managing. Even with the chance to finish off the World Series, that's what he chose to do. Probably, with input from the people up above him, Andrew Friedman and the group with the Dodgers front office. But the one concern that maybe you have, and I know a lot of baseball people feel this way, is in a situation like that where you don't put in your best at the end of the game. No offense to Brent Honeywell, but do you give the other team life?
Right.
Do you wake up their bats? And the Yankees had scored the 6 runs going into the 8th inning, and then they kind of blew it open. But Aaron Judge got an RBI hit during that. Did you just wake up Aaron Judge? Was that the one that's going to do it? And I was thinking about it, and there was a game in 2015 at Seattle, went extra innings, and the Rangers had used Sean Tollison in the 10th to get out of a really difficult jam, and he did it. And the Rangers scored 8 runs in the 11th. 8 runs.
Wow.
All right. And Luke Jackson had just been called up from the minors. We're like, oh, this is a perfect spot for Luke Jackson to come in and make his major league debut. No pressure. Save the guys you're going to need. This is a Saturday afternoon game for Sunday afternoon. And I'll be damned if Sean Tollison doesn't go out and pitch the 11th. And of course, Jeff Banisher was the manager, and we asked about that, and he got all huffy, and it carried over into the next day. But his argument was, well, we didn't want to give them any life or any momentum going into the Sunday game. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
You're kind of full of shit, I think. But that's the way kind of people think. And so did the Dodgers, and not trying to keep the game where it was, are suddenly the Yankees' bats going to be hot?
Well, and you wonder, too, a little bit, because, again, you get this grand slam home run. We'll talk a lot more about the significance of it for Anthony Volpe, but you get that, and now you're down, and the Dodgers come right back and get to within one run.
Right.
At that point, you wonder, okay, in Dave Roberts' mind, does the game plan change a little bit, right? Like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, now maybe we do need to use more guys, because now we're back in this thing.
Yeah, and I wonder if Garrett Cole pitching today was in the back of his mind.
Sure.
Like, all right, if we go in there and use Blake Trinan, let's say, and it doesn't work, and the Yankees still win, well, now my best reliever, maybe let's say Michael Kopech too. My 2 best relievers are down for Game 5. Which is going to be a close game in all likelihood. And Garrett Cole's going to pitch. He's going to have his team in a great position like he did in Game 1, which the Dodgers ended up winning, with the Freeman Grand Slam, because they had a chance, and then went to extra innings and had a chance even though they were behind because of the bullpen usage. So, and this is where playing 3 in a row in the postseason comes into play. You've got to manage that bullpen, and Roberts did what he did, and maybe it's because, hey, I know that we still have a chance to win it, yes, but Garrett Cole's going to pitch, and we're going to be in a tight game, and that's when we're going to need these guys, especially with a day off coming in case they don't win.
Yeah, and then conversely, because the Yankees scored 6 runs in that 8th inning, they didn't have to send Luke Weaver out for a 3rd inning.
Right.
And that was huge. And Aaron Boone talked about it after the game. He's like, I would have sent Weave back out if it was still close. You would have had to. He said if it was 2 or 3, I would have sent Weave back out there, because you've just got to protect that game. I mean, again, for them at that point, it's a must-win situation.
Right. I mean, he came in the 7th.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like,
it was about to be a 3-out. Yeah, I mean, a 3 inning.
They are not messing around here. And you shouldn't be with the game on the line. That's exactly how you manage it. They still have some arms that they didn't use, so that'll be okay. But, and
he is available. I mean, according to post-game interviews anyway, he's available for today too.
It'll be interesting to see, but I think the Yankees feel like, all right, hey, we've got our best guy going. We scored some runs finally. Maybe they feel like they have some momentum. I guess maybe they are telling themselves that they do.
Sure,
they have to, but hey, maybe they do have a chance. I don't know. I said the history and everything is still against them, but
Yeah.
there's the first time for everything.
Sure, we'll get into that history in just a minute because it is bleak, relatively speaking. But I want to talk about Anthony Volpe. We showed earlier, maybe a week or so ago, the picture of him in 2009, 15 years ago, at a parade celebrating the Yankees' last World Series victory. He's a kid who grew up in New Jersey. And he went to that parade, and he was in the front row, right by the Duane Reade on Broadway in New York, and he's waving at Derek Jeter. There are also some pictures online of him meeting Derek Jeter when he was a little boy. Right, Jeter's his hero. Volpe bleeds Yankee blue, and he got out there. He got on second base in the third inning, I think it was. Or second, and whichever it was, he's on second. And there's that shot to the wall, and he doesn't score.
Yeah.
And you could see his frustration on his face physically and his body language and afterwards he said, "Oh, my God, that ball is so easy to read. A high schooler could have read that ball. I got a bad read on it, and it was terrible." And then he turns around after that gaffe, which had him feeling so bad, he turns around and becomes the hero.
Yeah, and when you kind of think about base running mistakes, there was one in the '91 World Series where Lonnie Smith either didn't go first or third, or was held up at third on a ball that he absolutely 100% should have scored on, and it would have changed the outcome of the World Series, and didn't. And so you see this play, and they're down at the time, and you're like, boy, every run matters, and gosh, you just can't have those mistakes in a game. But yeah, he jumped on that first pitch. It was a no doubt grand slam. It came after Rizzo had popped out with the bases loaded, and so you're thinking, oh geez, they may not score here, and they really really need to. So for him to come through was huge. And after the game, I don't know how much of the post game show you watched. They brought Volpe out.
Yes,
and the Fox crew includes Derek Jeter.
Yeah, it
was like he was kind of starstruck.
He was.
He really was struggling to come up with the answers when Derek Jeter was talking to him. And then afterwards they're like, "Oh, hey, go over there and get your picture of Jeter." And they were like, I think they could sense it a little bit because he was really stammering, and it was kind of a funny moment, I thought.
It was fun. Yeah. Now, and at the end of that interview, Big Papi gives him a T-shirt, and as a good teammate or brother or father figure would, Jeter goes, "Don't take that. Don't take that." And they asked Volpe after the game, what was that T-shirt? He goes, "I'm never going to wear it. It's a bunch of Red Sox crap." So anyway, Jeter knew exactly what Big Papi was doing there. But it was a magical moment because it brought the whole stadium, Jeff, alive. I mean, of course, the dugout, but the whole stadium. It had been really like a morgue around there prior to that, even in Game 4. And I mean, as soon as Freeman hit the home run anyway. And then, boy, it came alive, and they just kept on living. They lived to see another day.
Yeah, and I remember in 2010 when the Rangers and the Yankees played the ALCS there, and the series went back there. And, the place is loud, even though the seats kind of fan out, and it's not as intimate as the old place. But Benji Molina's home run in Game 3 really took the air out of the crowd.
Yeah.
It really did. And then Josh Hamilton took the air out of the crowd. Woo. The next night. They ended up winning the fifth game, but you can tell these moments when the crowds are like, crap.
Yeah.
Like a Corey Seager homer.
Yeah.
The Marcus Semien home run in Game 5 last year is just that ended it for them. But you can just tell those moments.
Yeah.
Where it's like the crowd's out of it.
Yeah. Not going to be our day.
Yeah.
It was the Yankees' day yesterday. Coming up, we will talk about today. It could be their day again. We'll talk about why, how, and can this series continue? That's coming up. But first, on the DLLS Rangers podcast, we get to Rugged Road. This is the great cooler that we have an example of in the other studio that we've dropped beer in to keep cold. That day we had the beers up here for JD, the Stars crew came in for a pregame show about 4, 5, 6 hours later that day. Beer was ice cold. all that time later. No problem at all, right? It's a great cooler. It keeps things cold. That's the most important thing. I noticed that day it has a little, like a shelf in the middle, a little divider. So it'll keep the like the ice stuff away from, the breads or the potato salads that you might put in there to make your lunch with. So we love these Rugged Roads. They're a great design. They're light. They're so versatile. They float, and you want to make sure that you get yourself a Rugged Road cooler. The holidays are coming up. Buy one for someone you love, someone who maybe has to go to a whole bunch of baseball games for their kids or softball games for their daughter or soccer games or volleyball games. Rugged Road. We absolutely love it. And get 10% off if you use the code DLLS.
With that 10% off, you can use it at foco.com and get another 10% off of that. So it's like you're doubling your money or something.
20%. Yeah.
So anyway, Foco, if you don't know, is sports gear. Get fitted in the best sports gear around. Support your team with hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between, overalls, crazy stuff, beachwear, jackets, you name it. Foco has it. They've helped us decorate our set back here. It's pretty cool. So check out foco.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code DLLS for 10% off. That's Foco, FOCO.com.
Beautiful. Ardell weighs in on the Rugged Road cooler and on Lud's. He says, if it's good enough for Ludwig, I'm in. And that was great that day that we had JD here, and Ben, our GM, brought some beers in for us and everything. And so anyway, we didn't finish them. So I text Lud's when I left here, and I said, hey, I left you a present in the cooler. He just sends me one thing back. And a big old emoji with the hands clapping and the audio and everything. So needless to say, those beers did not go to waste with Lud's following us in here with a hockey show. All right, Game 5 tonight. Pitching matchup first. I know we've mentioned Garrett. I'm not sure that we have mentioned that it is, in fact, a rematch of Game 1 of this series. And look, Garrett Cole did everything for the Yankees to have won that game, right? I mean, he absolutely did his job. Now, so did Flaherty, right? I mean, Flaherty did his job too. It was a great pitching duel that game. But I mean, at home, given the circumstances, given his experience, you feel like Garrett Cole probably has a bit of an advantage tonight. And again, given his pedigree, his history.
Yeah, and I wonder. I think our one of the criticisms of Aaron Boone, at least that you and I registered in Game 1, was that he took Cole out.
Yes, 88 pitches.
At 88 pitches.
Yeah.
This is your horse.
Yeah.
You let him go.
Right.
And with the it seems like the Yankees bullpen is okay for tonight, but you never know. Who's going to come in stiff. Maybe Luke Weaver's like, boy, I don't know if I
2 innings. Yeah, I did 2.
So maybe you do let him ride. If he's dominating and has the same stuff. Now, I believe the Dodgers only struck out 4 times in Game 1, which is interesting. A lot of contact. Maybe that suggests that Cole didn't have his best stuff. Which, if that's the case, then geez, he might have a little more with him. So it'll be interesting to see. And Flaherty, of course, has turned into this great World Series performer. He's allowed 1 run in 3 World Series starts in his career. And
that's 18 innings, by the way. It's not like you just come in for 2 or 3 innings. Yeah.
So that's a 0.5 ERA if my math holds correct, or is it a 1 ERA? I don't know.
No, it's 0.5. I mean, at least it's what I read. I can't do math. That's what I read.
Well, it's earned runs times 9 divided by innings pitched. So it would be 0.5.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's good to see that starters are back involved here. And then if the Dodgers have saved their best arms, are they going to keep a short leash on him? Does he try to go a little bit deeper? I mean, what are the Dodgers use 4 relievers? None of them really their leverage guys. So I don't know. If it just seems like the way baseball's trending, Flaherty's done after 5, unless he's just out kicking ass and taking names. So we'll see what happens. But the Yankees have to feel good about where they are with who they've got on the mound.
Yeah, you would. And truly, this is one of those situations where I think almost any manager would err on the side of use all of them, right? All hands on deck, especially in the Yankee situation, right? But I feel like, and I hope that, Aaron Boone would be sort of, judicious enough and wise enough, for lack of a better word. We talked about the Blake Snell performance the other day, right?
Yeah.
That is a guy, we were both at that game. That is a guy who was so dominant in that game at that point. I don't care what math, I don't care what analytics, I don't care what anything says. You don't take him out of that game. And, hopefully in this age of analytics and everything else, if either pitcher, I really don't take a guy out when he is dominating a team like that. They couldn't touch him.
The eye test has to count for something.
It does.
It really does. And it was just the Dodgers said afterwards, hey, we got fired up when they took him out. We're like, hey, all right, we got a chance now. And that kind of has cloud hung over Blake Snell. He'd never thrown a complete game until this season. And now that he has, who knows what's going to happen, because he's a free agent and all that stuff. But kind of let it play. Don't fix it if it isn't broken.
Right.
And especially as much as these guys get used. I know, Flaherty had a full season. Garrett Cole did not have a full season. He missed 4 months. So this guy's still got some bullets in that shoulder, and let him go. Let him go. I think this is going to be the last time. Where you're going to save him for an inning in Game 7? I mean, come on, let it go.
No reason not to. So that's the matchup for tonight's game. Again, we can only hope we get a game as good as the game one was ultimately, and ended in that unbelievable dramatic fashion when we weren't even positive at the beginning of that game that Freddie Freeman was going to play, right? That his ankle was going to be healthy enough, and he did, and then he was a hero, and then he's hit a home run in every game since. By the way, after that grand slam, so it should be. Hopefully, it will be a great game. I personally, for a couple reasons, would like to see it extend. One, I picked the Yankees. So did Jeff. So did Abby. Two, just like to see baseball continue, right? I mean, right? It means games. We've had some excitement tonight. It means there's a little chaos for the weekend, and it means baseball continues. Now, what are the chances? Not good. Not good. No team has ever come back in the World Series from down 0-3. It's happened in the ALCS, as we know, famously. And we now hear that, in fact, Dave Roberts has actually mentioned it to his players, that he was a huge part of that 0-4 comeback when the Red Sox were down 3-0 to the Yankees and came all the way back to win that series, right? So he knows just how possible this is, even though it's never happened in the World Series. He's warning his guys, like, hey, this is not probable, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, don't take anything for granted. Keep playing. All the cliches. Show up, be ready to play, blah blah blah, whatever. It's true.
Yeah,
and Dave Roberts lived it. Now that's the only time in a baseball history in a 7-game series that's happened. But I don't know. I guess I'd be uptight and worried about it until the last out is made and you're hoisting that trophy after the game. Stay dialed in and don't let up.
Yep. No doubt about it. It's huge. Now, as for 3-1, not as, the odds aren't as long, although obviously these teams that were in 3-1 situations that won the World Series clearly were not down 3-0, right?
Yeah.
It was 1-1 or it was 2-1, and then they got down 3-1. But in 14 times in postseason history, teams have come back from being down 3-1. Only 6 of those in the World Series. And the 6, they're all so significant. It's really amazing. You've got the 2016 World Series when the Cubs came back, right? I mean, they hadn't won since the 1800s, not quite, but, they hadn't won in, was it 82, 81 years, whatever it had been.
Yeah.
They came back and won that series, having been down 3-1.
Right, and, they had to beat Corey Kluber to do it twice, I think, and then that Game 7 was fabulous that year with Chapman giving up the home run to a guy who can barely hit the ball from here to that wall, and then for them to end up winning it was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, the one thing, and Ardell and Ben are kind of going back and forth, or at least were, about the 2-3-2 format in the best of 7 series.
Yeah.
Ardell doesn't like it, and you know, it just, you know, logistically they kind of have to do it. But also, and we were talking to Elijah about this, John, beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, this simulates baseball. This simulates a season. These guys play 3 games in a row every week. You know, there's not a week that goes by where they're just, you know, playing once and getting a day
obviously,
off.
often, you know, 4, 5, 6, and sometimes 20.
It forces managers to be at their best. It forces players to be at their best, and you know, I just it's kind of like the old September rule, where you would expand the rosters, and you could bring up everybody on the 40-man roster if you wanted. You know, why would you play for 5 months and then completely alter the rules for the last month when everything's on the line? So at this point in the postseason, why would you change the rules? Why would you reset everything? You know? Yeah, I'm sure that both teams would love a reset on their bullpens right now, but that's not it. And that's just kind of this is baseball right now.
And literally, it goes back. If you trace it back, it goes to travel time, right? I mean, you had 2 games played, and again, in the very early days of baseball, obviously they were all in the Northeast, right?
Yeah.
But then once you started adding the Chicagos and the Detroits in, and you're going up by train, right? Well, if you're going from New York to Chicago by train to play a World Series, or to Pittsburgh or to Detroit, you need some time. So that's why they did it that way. There were 2 here, and then they took, probably in those days, 2 days to travel, but I don't know, and then 3 there, and then another day or 2 of travel, and then back. So that's something that's just stood the test of time ever since we've moved to 7-game series in that situation. So that's great. A couple of other games that were the 3-1 variety included that 85 World Series.
Oh, right.
You were a part of that, right?
I was at Game 6 of the 85 World Series.
Yeah.
My dad was a Cardinals fan, and we lived in Denver, and so to get to Kansas City is not awful. And so he said, "All right, guys, if the Royals win Game 5 and force the series back to St. Louis or to Kansas City, let's go." And so he and my sister and I drove overnight, got tickets, scalped tickets. I sat. I was the only one who saw the ceremonial first pitch. Sally Ride threw it out. And
wow!
But anyway, I was up there at age 11, almost 12, by myself with a bunch of retirees.
Oh, because you got individual tickets.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And of course, that game is remembered for the blown call at first base in the 9th inning by Don Denkinger. And Todd Worrell's going over to cover the ball, to cover the base, and Denkinger just blew the call. I think Jorge Orta or George Orta was the batter. And anyway, that forced Game 7, and the Cardinals, the Royals just whipped their ass.
Won them. Yeah.
Jose Andujar went crazy, or Joaquin Andujar went crazy, and John Tudor didn't pitch worth a damn and apparently punched a fan after the game or something like that. Anyway, Brett Saberhagen was great, and
as usual.
But yeah, there are a lot of those. But yeah, 85. Bringing back some good memories, John.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, and then you've got 79, the We Are Family team in Pittsburgh, and that Baltimore team they beat was a phenomenal team.
Sure.
I mean, that was an unbelievable Baltimore Orioles team that they just basically, after being down 3-1, that Pirates staff, just with a 39-year-old Willie Stargell leading the way, they just dominated the rest of that series, held the Orioles through the rest of that series to just like 2 home runs or something. It was a dominant finish to that, when they won, obviously at that point, they won 3 games in a row.
Yeah,
so.
and I don't know a lot about the 70s baseball, but like Kent Colvey, and, skinny guy who weighs about, I don't know, a third of what I weigh, probably, out there throwing from down under, and then Dan Quisenberry was the same guy, the submarine pitcher for the Royals. So anyway, that's a bygone era, though. They don't see a lot of those guys anymore.
And this is one of the reasons we had to get to this. I wanted to go through them all to get to 1968. Tigers
Yeah, there you go.
beat the Cardinals. Bob Gibson pitched 2 great pitching games against Denny McLain, who had won 31 that year. Last pitcher to win 30, probably the last that'll ever win 30. And he won 31 games that year.
Was the MVP.
And he did not win those games in the World Series. Bob Gibson's team won both those games in the World Series. Tigers were down 3-1, and they came all the way back, getting a great pitching performance from Mickey Lolich on 2 days rest in that Game 7.
Yeah, I'm guessing that what's his name? Just the 30-game winner. Yeah, Denny McLain was not doing his taxes.
No,
that wasn't the distraction.
Apparently he forgot to do them for a lot of years. That's why he ended up in the clink on that deal. So yeah, he didn't have a high regard for paying taxes back in the day. So anyway, some of the teams that have come back, there were 6 in the World Series history that have come back from down 3-1. Will the Yankees be the next? We don't know, but we will find out tonight. Next on the DLLS Rangers podcast, we'll continue to talk about the Rangers. We'll continue to talk about things that are happening on the periphery with this World Series. It's baseball talk the way you like it. And yes, Ardell, we do have Cussing Jeff aboard. So we appreciate you appreciating him. It's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast. All right, let's talk about this. We mentioned it at the beginning, this new diehard deal that we've got. We really encourage you to take advantage of this ASAP. It's a deal. It's cheaper, way cheaper, significantly cheaper than it was when we introduced this. All City, our ownership group, All City is growing and expanding and improving. We're told in an email today there are more changes coming, which is so cool, because what those changes mean is they mean we're doing well. And what they also mean is, apparently in this case, it's true, you're going to save some money. You can become a diehard, get the stuff that's behind the paywall that Jeff and our other great writers are writing. Get 20% off merchandise, 20% off all of our events, which include ultimately trips to places like spring training. And there are so many other benefits. You get a free T-shirt for becoming a diehard. So if you would like a good TCU DLLS T-shirt like that one, become a diehard today.
Yeah, and again, with I'm not covering the World Series, so what I'm writing, I haven't been writing a lot. You're kind of gathering information at this stage and waiting for some information. I mean, these front office guys are taking trips. I think Chris Young just had his 20th anniversary, so he and his wife went on a trip, and you have scouts in Latin America or in the Dominican covering, doing their due diligence on that Dominican Winter League. Signings will come out of that. There's just going to be news gathering from the moment this last out of the World Series and free agency opens. So we're going to be ready. Get your diehard membership because there's going to be some great stuff. There just will be, and it's not just baseball. If you guys came over from Rangers Today, where I covered only baseball, you got access to only baseball. You get access to Cowboys, Mavs, Stars. So join up.
Yep, we want you to do it, and we appreciate if you would do it. All right, let's talk about some of the cool things that are happening on the periphery with regard to this World Series. The first one's not cool at all. Now, I saw Ardell and Ben talking about this earlier, but those idiots who interfered with the play could not have me more angry. Actually, you know what? There might be somebody who has me more angry than those idiots. Because the thing is, people in this day and age with these stupid cell phones, we ought to ban these things. The first thing people start doing, are they taping those kids? No, Fox was, thankfully. Are they taping them when they're basically assaulting Mookie Betts? No. But as soon as a security guard shows up, everybody's got to turn around and get their phone ready because we're just sure this is going to go viral and somebody's going to get in trouble because they were mean to these kids who just disrupted a World Series game, which, by the way, they weren't mean, those security guards. It didn't even look like they touched them. They said, "You're going to have to leave, gentlemen," right? Yeah. By the way, you paid thousands of dollars for these seats, and you're going to have to leave. They're in the front row down there on the first baseline on the foul territory there. front row. And two different guys not only tried to get the ball from Mookie Betts, they grabbed his glove, they grabbed his arm.
Right.
And so then you've got the idiots trying to tape all the people. Okay, here we go. Oh, we'll go viral with this because these security guards are mean. They're not mean. They're doing their job, and those idiots should be ejected from there. And then all the way up that row, because they were way down front, all the way up, people are high-fiving them and hugging them. What? Why are we celebrating idiots? Stop it, Yankees fans. You're better than that. All right, I've ranted.
I'm going to put you down as a maybe on this one.
Yeah,
I don't know which way you're leaning, but I couldn't. You thought, all right, they just interfered with it or whatever. He didn't even catch the ball. He caught the damn ball, and they tried to rip it out.
Tried to take it twice,
and then one of the guys started arguing with the umpire.
Right.
I mean, who are you to argue with the umpire?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So and there's a comment from Franklin. Please stop. Fans are passionate. That's what you get.
No,
it's not what you get.
That's not.
Nobody else has done that. Nobody has done that in that I ever remember seeing.
Yeah,
where you actually grab the player's glove and try to rip the ball out while he's hanging there on the wall.
Yeah,
it's uncalled for.
It's
no matter how many
of.
beers they'd had, and if they'd had that many beers, then it's like screening for a flight. You can tell when a guy's drunk. Don't let him in the damn stadium.
Right.
Anyway, there's an update on that. MLB formally requested from the Yankees to not let those two back in for this game, and they will not be permitted back in for Game 5.
Yeah, and how wise was that decision, fellas? Because you paid thousands, there's no doubt, thousands of dollars for those seats. So, I mean, just have some sense. And again, to all the fans who were celebrating that on the way out, most fans aren't and shouldn't be celebrating that type of behavior. You look at a kid like poor Steve Bartman, that poor kid to this day can't go around Chicago.
Right.
And, he's
Jeffrey Meyer, another Yankees guy who reached over the wall.
Yeah. So anyway, I just that kind of behavior isn't, to Franklin's point, it's not passionate fan behavior. It's basically assault. And it was obviously, it got me hot under the sports collar just a little bit there. But all right, be better, Yankees fans. I know you will. Because I actually must admit, I like the Yankee fans.
Sure.
I think that kind of passion, that kind of, they affect a game. They affect players.
They do. Yeah.
And before I got into this business, I was that guy. I'd get out in the outfield when I was, like in high school and early college, and I'd try to say things to either make the right fielder laugh or to make him, be distracted or to look up. I mean, that was like all we cared about is, guys out there drinking a few beers. We're like, hey, I got him to laugh or whichever. So I love that.
How many players did you assault?
Never once.
Okay.
No,
all right.
Never once. No. So now, how about Shohei Ohtani? We haven't even talked about him yet. He did get a hit last night, as did Aaron Judge, RBI single for Judge. Ohtani had a hit last night. He's not the same guy since he, whatever that was, partially separated his shoulder. But what was great, what is great, is that he is such a star, of course, all over Japan. But in his hometown of Oshu, Japan, they are having watch parties every day. These are, the games over there are early in the morning, I believe it is, on the next day. And so they're having watch parties at the Civic Center in his hometown, which is a small town. They're extremely proud of the fact that they're getting like 300 people at the game or at the watch parties. And do we have the video? Well, let's play the video here for a second as the prophet pulls this up for us. Here you go. Just like in the movie theater, you don't want to sit in the front row. Apparently there, you don't want to sit in the first 15 rows because you got to see the screen better, and that's a better view. What I thought was so great is the guy is up on stage saying, "Let's go Shohei." They're chanting, "Let's go Shohei," wouldn't you think they chanted in Japanese? I could understand it.
Well, maybe it was staged for the media. There were cameras there. I don't know.
There
But
were.
how many thousands of dollars were spent on Dodgers gear there? You saw
Right?
jerseys and hats. I don't think Temu is selling those things. So, that's a lot of money. And the Dodgers are wildly popular. Obviously, they have Ohtani, but they have Yamamoto and shoot, maybe they'll get Sasaki. I'm not sure, but the Dodgers are the it team over there. It's always cyclical because the Rangers were the it team there when they signed Darvish.
Sure.
But that's pretty cool.
And then Seattle, obviously the Mariners, when they had Ichiro,
was they had Ichiro and a couple others.
Yes, they did.
That's pretty neat. For a small town like that to have their hero. You kind of think of Hoosiers and
sure,
lining up the caravan to all those playoff games and whatnot. Maybe they're doing that. And Sasaki, like we were talking about yesterday, is from a small town
as well. Yeah. And you can only imagine how, like, what a star, a superstar, a freak somebody like that would have been in a little town, Oshu, Japan. And then he lived up to everything that they kind of thought he might do, and then some. And certainly if they win, if the Dodgers hold on to win this series, that's just, the place is just going to go crazy. One final thing that I thought was it's probably a neat way to end this show, and it was when they asked Volpe after the game, the huge game, he had the grand slam, he put the team back in it, he carried him back. We told you he was at the parade in 2009, grew up in New Jersey, huge Yankees fan, and they asked him, so, like, describe for me the level of fandom. Like, where does this come from? And he almost teared up. I mean, he was really choking back tears. And he said, my grandpa came back from World War II, and my dad barely even knew him because he was over, fighting for our freedom, right? And he says he would put my dad on his lap, and they would listen to the Yankees. And he's almost crying. He says, and that's what it means to him, and that's what they mean to me. I mean, I'm getting chills retelling the story, right?
Yeah.
And so that is that's the kind of passion, right, that I love. That's the kind of stuff I like to see, is that sort of emotional tie generationally for a team like the Yankees.
Yeah, well, if you're from there, and coming back from World War II, okay, so before World War II, he probably grew up with Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and those great Yankees teams. He goes away. Babe Ruth, if you studied history at all, the U.S. Army used Babe Ruth as part of their code. I mean, that's how big of a guy Babe Ruth was. So he comes back. The Yankees are still great. They have a guy named Joe DiMaggio on the team now, and Mel Allen was the voice, and I'm sure it was a great radio call to hear. But it could have been the Dodgers, could have been the Giants. They were all in New York at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that is cool. I mean, I can't imagine sitting and listening to a baseball game just because we've always had it on TV. But I still listen to it in the car and whatnot, and enjoy the heck out of those guys and what they do. It's a craft. It's a different deal than a TV broadcaster for sure. But that's pretty cool with Volpe and the storyline, and again getting kind of caught off guard or starstruck when talking to Jeter after the game last night. So that's a cool story. It's going to end up being a footnote if they don't win the series. Game 5 tonight. No series that has started 3-0 has ever gone past Game 5, so that's working against the Yankees. But again, there's a first time for everything.
And they got Garrett Cole on the mound. We remember, it's not hard to remember that back this far. Game 1 was a pitcher's duel. It was a great game, and we expect a similar type performance tonight certainly out of Garrett Cole and probably out of Jack Flaherty, who's been great in the World Series. So this should be epic. Whatever happens tonight, we'll be back to talk about it tomorrow and maybe the adjusted 40-man roster.
Yeah, we're going to be diving in.
Maybe we're starting that hot stove league. We're not sure. We'll see what happens tonight. Either way, we're here tomorrow. We're at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Set your clocks. We're 1 hour later tomorrow. We'll be here at 1 to talk baseball with you on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.